My name is David Dustin. I'm the principal at Jaffrey Ridge Middle School, and I'm really excited to welcome all of our new sixth graders and their families in. The purpose of tonight is really just to give some introductory information about how the middle school works, information for families as you make the transition. For many of you, this is probably your first child going into sixth grade. And so some of you not so much, but for those especially who have never been through the middle school experience, it could be very different. So we want to provide information for both our veteran middle school families, but also for those who are coming in for the first time. We will get started, and at the end, there'll be an opportunity for any questions that folks may have. This is awkward to hold because it doesn't actually do anything in here, but we are also live streaming, so this provides noise to anybody who's watching through Zoom. So I want to start with just some introductions of the team of administrators, support staff, and teachers. And I don't think Nick can see me, but I'm kind of looking for the next slide. I'll click. There we go. Oh, okay. So apparently we've animated this slide. I thought we hadn't done so. If I could have the team of administrators, teachers, and other staff come right to the front, please. And I'll have each of them just make a brief introduction.
Hello and welcome. My name is Heather Schulman, and I'm the assistant principal of all things teaching and learning.
My name is Amy Bossy, and I'm going to be the sixth grade writing teacher this year.
Take center stage, Ms. Jordan. Yeah, don't squeeze in a corner.
Okay. Hi, I'm Erica Jordan, and I'm teaching social studies for sixth grade this year.
Hi, I'm Shauna Smith, and I teach reading, and this year will be my 17th year teaching sixth grade here, and I'm super excited because I've heard lots of great things about this class.
Good evening, I'm Kim Baker, and I'm the counseling director here for the middle high school.
Hi, I'm Rachel Leonard. I'm one of the assistant principals here as well.
Hi, I'm Heather Lindstedt. I'm the activity director for the district and cover all of athletics.
There are several other teachers who are not here tonight, and you'll get to know them. We're having a barbecue on the 15th, which all sixth graders and their families are invited to. Usually our full teacher complement is there that night. It's a great opportunity for doing a little bit of meet and greet and things like that. You'll have Mr. Alberta as the science teacher this year, and Ms. Furtado will be teaching math. And we don't yet have a case manager locked in for sixth grade because we're doing some shuffling of staff in the student services side of things. All sixth graders will share a school counselor together, and as well as with seventh grade. Her name is Miss Rokes. And we're really excited about both her opportunity to work with our sixth grade learners, as well as their families and the teachers, to provide a lot of transition services that we definitely were missing in the last couple of years, with especially the disruptions that happened with learning with COVID. So we have a dedicated specific person just focusing on grade 6 and 7 to make sure those 2 critical years of transitioning into this building have lots of support. There are 3 secretaries in the building who have very different roles. You probably have gotten something from Mrs. Estes if you're here. She's the secretary who works closest with me. You'll get a lot of communication from her. Definitely make sure her email is in your safe email list so nothing ends up in a spam folder or things like that. Our counseling secretary, who also is the registrar, who does all of the inputting of paperwork and things like that, is named Mrs. Mormando. And again, you'll get lots of communications from her, especially each school year as you look at scheduling, report cards, things like that. That will all come from her. And then Miss Drew is the secretary who works with the assistant principals. She spends most of her time working on the behavior support side, closely with Mrs. Summy, but there are some other things that she might communicate home as well about. And then the nurse who works closest with our middle school is Mrs. Ion. The first message that I think is really important coming from elementary school into middle school, generally anywhere, but especially where you have multiple towns coming together like we have here, is a quick understanding of the fact that middle school is very different from elementary school. And that's not good, bad, or indifferent. It's just the reality. The middle school years tend to be very awkward for students. Their bodies change very quickly as they're going through middle school. Their peer groups change. The student you knew before starts to become a little bit different. Their behaviors start to change a little bit. And we mentioned that because, especially for parents who are experiencing middle school for the first time, that can be very jarring. And sometimes it can seem like it's overnight. You know, your 6th grader might come in very similar to how they were in 5th grade. And all of a sudden, 2 months in, you'll start getting different reports from school than you're used to. Again, good, bad, or indifferent, it's just a change. So we want you to be aware of that and to be expecting that. That is completely normal. That's part of just that developmental process of going through the middle transition years of being an adolescent. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Baker for some specifics about that.
Thank you. I think Mr. Dustin touched on a lot of the things that you see listed here. This is a transition for learners, but it's also a transition for parents and guardians too, right? So you'll be meeting new families, getting connected in different ways here at the middle school. And so I want to talk a little bit about how we can support you with that transition, not just as sixth graders, but as middle schoolers. So I think Mr. Dustin also talked about, you'll see some new behaviors. There may be some new peer conflicts or a little bit of drama that happens sometimes in middle school. I know that's never happened, before they came here. So it's not anything anybody is familiar with, but we do see a little increase, right? As they're trying to find their place, their new peer groups, meet new people, get connected to new activities and athletic opportunities here. We just see that things are different. There's many more transitions in our school day. So learners will have 8 periods a day. So kind of learning how to manage all of that and the transitions and different teachers. So we acknowledge that, and it's important for us to talk about it so that you have that support at home, but also know that you can reach out to us here so that we can help support your learners through all of the changes. It's incredible growth from the beginning of 6th grade to the end of 6th grade. So we're excited to help kind of work with you on that transition. So all of this will be normal, even though sometimes it may be difficult, it may be challenging. Sometimes you might not know how to respond. Just know that it's normal and it's expected, and we're prepared to help support your learners. All of you here with us. It's so nice to see so many of the learners here tonight. We appreciate that. But also, it's okay as parents and guardians to reach out to us and say, I need some help. I don't know what to do here. My learner's struggling, or I'm struggling with how to manage and support my learner. That's kind of our main focus with 6th grade transition. And we do that in a variety of different ways. And so, we always kind of say to families, start with the teachers. Teachers know your learners best. They spend a lot of time with your learners throughout the day. So if you have concerns about their learning, things that are happening in the classroom, questions about classwork, and even some of the social things that may be happening, teachers are always a great first contact. They'll be communicating with us as a school counseling team, as an administrative team, but the 6th grade team will also be communicating with you about what they're seeing in the classroom. So that's always a great place to start. Plus, if you're not sure who to contact, they'll direct you to whoever they think can best help support you with whatever is going on with you and your learner. School counseling, we kind of have 3 major areas that we focus on: academics, social, emotional, social concerns, peer concerns, but also talking about kind of the transition from 6th to 7th grade, 7th to 8th grade, talking about career pathways, and just introducing all kinds of new information and supports for learners. And then, of course, administration is available to work with you. We're a collaborative team. We support one another. We want to support you. So we don't want you to be afraid to reach out to us as an administrative team also. We want to help your learners be successful, and that includes bringing lots of people together sometimes, and that's okay. So different reasons why administration might reach out to you, or you might want to reach out to us if there's continued behavioral concerns, suggestions, or ideas that you may have for us, ways that we should maybe be looking at doing some things differently, how we might be able to better partner with you as parents and guardians and with your learners to help the transition and your time at the middle high school with us be more successful, and then any ongoing concerns that you have. And then I think the 2 major people that you'll really work with as 6th graders, that's okay, is Mackenzie Rokes. She's the school counselor for learners in grade 6 and 7. So you'll work with Mrs. Rokes for the next 2 years. So that will be really, she'll get to know your learners really well. And then I'm the director of counseling here at the middle high school, as I mentioned earlier. We also have a larger team, and you'll get to know those individuals over time. I don't want to overwhelm you, but you'll see Mrs. Rokes all around. Your learners will see her. She'll be in the classroom. She'll be in the lunchroom. She'll be on the playground. So she'll be kind of pushing into wherever your learners are throughout the day, getting to know your learners in a big classroom setting, doing some what we call universal programming, things we want all learners to have as they transition, but also available to meet with learners one-on-one or small groups. She'll be part of the 6th grade team, which is really great. So she'll be joining those team meetings on a regular basis. So she'll get to know you and your learners really well. And she would be a great resource to you for any questions or concerns. She's in the classroom most of the day. So we certainly, if you need something immediate, you can call the counseling center, you can call me, but otherwise emailing her is another great way to communicate. So we just want you to know that we want you to reach out. We want you to communicate. We want to support you. If you're not sure who to ask, just let us know. We'll point you in that direction if we can't help you. So thank you. See who goes to next.
So one of the big things that we know is as growing up and getting into middle school is there is lots of change. And for parents and guardians, you remember middle school, it wasn't like that. It's changed a lot. And I think part of that is just, you know, the times that we're living in, social media has changed. And I think our kids are growing up, and certainly with their experiences over the last couple of years with COVID, things are different than what happened when we were in high school and middle school. So we really want to make sure that as they're developing through the next couple of years, they're trying to figure out who they are. And that might be one way, September 15th, and then, you know, September 25th, it's going to be different. It's okay. All right. I know it's going to be a lot of changes. We sometimes will say, wow, so-and-so just, you know, is a little different. They got a little taller, and just they just changed a little bit. Looking back at our 6th graders last year, and then when school ended, I was shocked at how much they had changed and grown and come together. And the 6th grade team just did an amazing job. So you're in really good hands. One of the things, you know, talking about behavior is we are getting together with 2 different, you know, you have Ringe and Jeff coming together. Those are exciting things because you get to meet new people. The challenges are you've had summer off, and now we're sitting back into, you know, into a building, and it's a little bit more, we have the structures to help everybody. So I think one of the big things that I wanted to, you know, is hit home is that we're here to support. Okay. If there's something that's going on, please communicate. If there's something going on at home and it might have an impact, you know, something happened maybe last night, reach out to the team. All right. It's always good for us to know if something is changing, because their behaviors could change as a result of something going on. The Discipline Handbook is something we refer to. Our philosophy here is when things happen, it's not just going to be like, oh, you know, you're going home. We really want to try to find out, you know, what might be, you know, the underlying cause of things. People don't usually have bad days just because I wake up in the morning and I want to have a bad day. So, you know, we're going to try to support, which means we're going to collaborate together with everybody, the teachers, the nurses, the counselors, and parents. And I think this is a tough thing. As a parent, we have to listen more. We all want to fix the problem right away, right? I want to fix it. I think part of it, we really, as parents and as staff, we have to listen, and they have to learn some of those skills so that they can solve problems. I will be the first one. I know Mr. Dustin and I talked about this last year. We want to fix things right away, but this is part of their growing up as well. Go ahead, Nick. I think one of the big things I know in the way society is today, school safety is priority, and actions with families is important, that we start to understand that there are certain things you just don't kid around about anymore. You know, there are certain things that you wouldn't bring to school, you wouldn't say. We want to make sure that people feel safe. And those are tough conversations to have with your children. So please, you know, discuss things about, you know, what you would say, what you wouldn't say. And we also want to make sure if kids don't feel comfortable, or if they do feel unsafe, is to talk to somebody, whether it's their teacher, whether it's the counselors, whether it's administration, or if you as a parent, you know, have a concern, pick up the phone and let us know. Okay. We want to make sure that we can address things and look into things, or dispel, yes, that's a rumor. Okay. So our staff have a lot of training with, you know, the social emotional piece, and also our safety protocols and our plans are top notch. We have really, you know, excellent plans in place for a variety of situations. Go ahead. All right, Mr. Dustin.
So obviously the other pieces are critical to supporting the transition of our sixth graders and their families, helping to frame the safety of our school, providing you with information about the resources for the social and mental health well-being of your children while they're here, as well as their physical safety. But the reason why schools exist is to educate and to help students grow and to ensure that every student has the opportunity to be pushed, to face rigorous types of learning, and to grow through their time with us. And that's the center of our mission, and that's the focus of what we do. And in the middle school, things start to shift a little bit from where you saw them in the elementary school in terms of how learning is approached. Obviously, in elementary schools, you have a core teacher who's with that student all day for the most part. I know in fifth grade, there's some movement between, I think social studies and science has some different movement with teachers, but by and large, children in elementary school are with one teacher for the large majority of their learning throughout the school year. Here, things are a little bit different. You still have a core group of teachers, but each subject is covered by a different teacher, as we saw with the introductions today. That means that students are transitioning throughout the day multiple times just to get that core instruction in things like social studies, reading, writing, math, and science. The other portion of the day is spent in what we call unified arts. So every sixth grader, for example, will have a STEM class. That's part of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That's to build some computer literacy skills while also working on inquiry thinking and building out hands-on sort of robotics and things like that. Every sixth grader will have an art and music exploration class that, again, focuses on that creative arts side of things. So those unified arts, every learner has wellness, things like that. Those unified arts kind of round out the experiences, but again, not every learner will have those at the same time, and those would be sprinkled around the core instruction. And then the third sort of piece of our academic stool is focused around really building a strong and safe community in sixth grade, so that as learners become older and progress through the grade levels, they can have the skills to do really well with less of that drama, less of that peer conflict that tends to be a part of early middle school. At the center of our system of academics, we focus on really trying to build a critical thinking type of approach within learners. The phrase you might hear is that our job isn't necessarily to teach what to think or to spew content only, but to teach learners how to think and how to make decisions. And that's critical thinking when we talk about that. So in middle school, you'll start to see more delineated, more spelled out what the critical thinking skills are that we're trying to build with learners. It could be comparison as a really heavy focus of a reading unit, for example. That doesn't mean the reading isn't important, but by middle school, that skill tends to be built a little bit more. So we start to look at how that skill of reading can be used to compare pieces of, in that case, informational text or something like that. We focus on problem-solving skills. In math, for example, you should, and we would expect you to see more application of math material versus just learning the basic formulas and things like that. Depth of thinking, intellectual curiosity. These things revolving on the outside are the areas that we start to grow more and more starting in sixth grade. The goal is that by the time our learners leave Conant High School in 7 years from where you are right now, these outer ring areas will be really strong, connected, and able to support that individual making decisions about their future, from a really strong place of knowledge and skill.
Are you in for a treat? We have hand-selected our sixth grade teachers. Some of them are here. They are amazing. Our sixth grade team is so strong and cohesive that your learners can't help but pick up on their positive energy. Well, all except for you, who we have, I must say, we are stealing her from grade school. Sorry, Jeffrey grade school, but she's heard so many good things about our sixth grade team. She couldn't wait to join us. So let's talk a little bit about learning and in the classroom. We measure your child's growth in a couple of different ways. We're not only focused on the content, the academics, the basics, the core of education. We're also equally as concerned about growing and strengthening your child's work habits. And these are the habits that will serve your child well throughout the entire lifetime. We're talking about attention to a task, being persistent, asking questions to delve deeper into a topic. All of these soft skills that employers are begging us for, we start at a very young age. And your learners' progress in these areas will be reported on a report card. We don't grade work habits. We show it on a rubric where your child is. Much like elementary school, we do our grade reporting on a proficiency scale from 1 through 4, from emerging, developing, proficient, and advanced. Our teachers have spent a lot of time building the best power standards, the best learning goals that they believe that your children need to succeed for the next coming year and all of the years of high school and in life beyond. After carefully selecting this very important curriculum, they're trying to bring your child to the level 3, proficient. That means that your child's able to attend to the task, understands the content independently and consistently. But we know that not everybody reaches that proficient level at the same time. And the great thing is that's okay, because your 6th grade team of teachers will treat your child as the individual he or she is. And if it takes a little bit longer to demonstrate that they understand a certain skill at the 2 developing level, not quite at the 3, it's all right. They will reassess at a later date. We do something called rolling grades, meaning that our report card, our grading reporting to you each of the 4 terms is really, we really don't need to do it. Because at any given moment, you can log on to our Otis grade reporting system and see where your child is with progress in every course. We don't end a term and begin a term as during the old days when I was in school. I loved the first day of the new term because I had a great grade. I had 100 before I messed it up. Here we do it just the opposite. We are not ending terms. It's always moving and going. Teachers review, go back, reassess, and our goal is to move our learners as far as we can. And a little side note, according to the New Hampshire SAS scores, our 6th grade team moved this current incoming 7th grade group very far on the academic dimension there, made a lot of growth. So the one is not quite ready to do this on my own. I need some adult support. Just starting to understand the basic concepts of what the skill is. Okay. And then level 2, I'm starting to understand it. I can do it by myself sometimes, but I still need a little bit of adult help. And that's okay. And you can see that we're moving up, and level 3 is the proficient level. And that's our goal. We want every child to be at least at the proficient level, independently understands, can apply this new learning to solve real world problems, create projects, apply everything that they're learning. Okay? And the level 4 is those who can go above and beyond. We not only support learners and help fill gaps, we must enrich. For those that are ready to go on in whatever subject or topic it is, we will support them in their forward learning. And who does opportunities, Mr. Dustin? Was this still me? No.
So that last piece, if you want more information about how 1 to 4 grading works or the Otis system, we did a forum, I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and it is live streamed. I'll be sending all families in the middle and high school those forums. There's been 3 of them. The first just focused on some opportunities, different courses, things like that. The second was about proficiency-based grading, which is kind of what Mrs. Schulman was just talking about. And the third one was about how we use assessments with a tool called Otis. And we'll be providing all families some in-person, if they would like it, training in how to access this platform called Otis. It's something that the middle school and high school are using pretty exclusively. It's like a Google Classroom combined with a grade reporting sort of aspect of it. So parents, including all of our 6th grade families, can log in, look at the courses, and see on each of the major areas of learning where their child is on that 1 to 4 scale. So the idea is to give a lot quicker feedback to learners and also a lot quicker feedback to parents. So look for some communication on some in-person opportunities, some workshops with our Otis reps to help families access that as well. At JRMS, we emphasize 3 major areas that we see as opportunities for every child. The opportunity, in addition to learning, to grow some skills. And those skills are both classroom skills and work habit skills, but also, again, socializing, having new interests that they might not have had an opportunity to access in the elementary school. Start to courses in 7th and 8th grade, for example, that can help specific skills, things like woodworking that a student might want to take to build that skill set, more advanced STEM options, or types of art classes, things like that. In a moment, we'll ask Miss Lindstad to talk about that aspect as well. A big piece of middle school is also the development of what we call grit. And I'm sure you've heard that phrase before, but it's that idea of becoming more independent, to be, confronted with a challenge or a problem or a difficulty and sort of push your way through. Obviously, we know 6th graders don't have grit yet. That's going to be like a 12th grader. That would be absurd to think that our 6th graders are coming in with that level of perseverance on their own. But our job and our goal in middle school is to develop that such that when learners enter high school, their independence level is a lot higher. And when they become adults, challenges don't rattle them to the core and cause them to sort of lose the ability to push through. And the third thing that's a real opportunity that we want to foster in the middle school is helping each learner start to find a passion that can guide their post-secondary time when they leave Conan High School. I know in 6th grade, graduation seems like it's a long way off, but it really does go quickly. And before you know it, you'll be sitting here again in hopefully a much larger space to accommodate more people, but you'll be getting the freshman orientation side of this discussion. And before long after that, your child will be facing graduation. And so we want the middle school to help your child identify what their passion in life might look like so they can start making decisions in 7th grade and 8th grade, and especially in high school, that will put them on a path to be prepared for that. So you'll see in the middle school lots of opportunities for our ELO career coordinator to start having conversations, doing some interest inventories, sending information home for you to have conversations with your learner. In 7th grade, you'll see that starting even more. They might have specific parts of a skills class that we have focused around more of those post-secondary planning pieces. 8th grade, we'll have college fair opportunities. We don't shy away from the fact that this is middle school, so we shouldn't do that. We think it's the opposite. The more that your learner gets an idea of what their passions might look like now, the more they can really focus on their learning and take advantage of opportunities to set themselves up for high school and beyond. I think we're up to you now. I think this is Summy/Lindstad.
Okay, my slides just, oh, there we go. So I think one of the big things we know is the kids want to be involved with things. Yes, the academics are important. We know that. But it's also about how do we join together? How do we have those new experiences? We have an amazing amount of opportunities here at the middle school and the high school. Can you just go back? Thanks. There are so many opportunities that I wouldn't be able to list them all. So I would encourage you to sit down with your son or daughter and go through our website and go to, you've got, as I point here, the activities, and then also the athletics. There are so many things. So I really encourage you guys to go and maybe step out of your comfort zone and to join something. I think that's one of the best ways that you get to meet people, get a little bit of exercise, you put the cell phone away. And I think you'll see that a lot of our learners here do get involved. And that's how some of them, that's why they come to school. So Mrs. Lindstad has the opportunity to, come over here, Mrs. Lindstad. She is an amazing person to make the connections and to go out and encourage kids. And if you have any questions about athletics and or the activities, she's our go-to person. There you go.
Oh, sure. Well, the best part is, by the way, that for JRMS is that I'm accessible to them because my office is in the cafeteria. So when across the district, everybody says, why is 6th grade and the JRMS kids getting so many activities? That's, well, they know where I am. So they can find me. Again, what everybody has said, and that's what we do as far as co-curriculars, is take what they're learning in the school, they figure out what they're passionate about and they want to explore it. And we create the club or the activity along with terrific advisors to come up with things that we never thought of. I mean, one of my biggest clubs became animation. It has grown. It's so big. And, someday we're going to have better shows than The Simpsons. And it's going to be by by our students here at JRMS and at Conant. So again, the website isn't always updated right now because it's based on when the teachers come back, the advisors and those kind of things. But as Ms. Summy Leonard said, look at it, review it. It's all going to be there. The other thing, and I've already received questions, is about Family ID. Eventually, the whole district will be on Family ID. We'll get it to the elementaries. But we register all of our clubs and activities and sports. Please note, though, with athletics, if it's an athletic thing, you do have to attach a physical. For the clubs, and those you don't have to if you're just doing a club like robotics, animation, and those kind of things. But you still have to register. It's clearly one of the best things for us and for the advisors so that we know where your students are. I will build that out in about 2 weeks. I will go through Nick Handy. You can look at all the websites at the district website, and it will say these clubs are open. Please register on Family ID. I will say, I guess some of you are maybe new, but if you have a student that has already participated in any club at JRMS or Conant, you do not have to create, and we would like to push this. You already have an account. Just add this next student to that Family ID account, and that account will stay with them until they graduate. So you don't have to have numerous passwords or anything. That account is yours. Stay with that one password and always use that one Family ID account. Okay. Oh, and kids get to make their own clubs. They just come see.
This is very true. We now have, I mean, there are things going on after school that I pause and have no idea what they are. I have to go find Miss Lindstad and ask her sometimes. It really is student interest based, and we're excited to have Heather and Miss Lindstad in our building here, able to both meet with learners, but also create and oversee these programs. It really is a rare opportunity in a school our size to have as many things for learners as we do. So before we get to questions, a few important things. We have some more upcoming events just specifically for you. On the 15th at 5 o'clock is our grade 6 family barbecue. We're excited to bring it back and have it in person here at the school again. It's traditionally a potluck just for grade 6 learners, their family members, their siblings, whomever, and our staff are there as well. It's a meet and greet. It's an opportunity to look at the school, see the playground, get to see, if you're from Jaffrey, maybe some Ringe learners and vice versa, in an environment that is not school yet. So that's really great. We always enjoy that. And it's back after a couple of year hiatus. So that's going to be August 15th. Miss Estes has sent out some more information. You just have to RSVP to her to make sure we have a sense of numbers. And then we do have a potluck sign up that goes with that for some other non-meat items, because we purchase all of the grill items and veggie burgers and things like that. And then on the 29th, just for grade 6 students, is the grade 6 orientation here at the school. It's being led by a new student mentoring organization that Miss Lindstad and Miss Harding, who's one of our 8th grade teachers, has set up, called Where Everyone Belongs, or WEB. And it's 8th graders leading the full morning of orientation activities. It includes activities to bring the two groups of learners from Ringe and Jaffrey together, familiarize them with the school, have lots of fun in the process, and hopefully make the first day less socially anxious and less personally anxious for what school will look like. So that's on the 29th. You should have, or will soon be getting, more information from Miss Harding and Miss Lindstad. I think they sent a little postcard home very recently that should be getting there soon if hasn't already. And we are always happy to have anybody come in and take a tour during the summertime. Miss Drew, whose contact information is here, and I will send this out to all grade 6 families. She can walk you around the building, show you the different areas that grade 6 would be interacting with, and do a general tour for any family, any individual who would like that. You do have to pardon our appearance right now. We have some HVAC work going on that's pulled a lot of guts out of the building all over the place, as I'm sure you saw coming in. And then, of course, we have ordering during the summertime. So piles of boxes are in the lobby. It's actually about 20,000 times better than it was a couple of days ago, because you could barely walk in the lobby. So that does happen in the summertime as well. But we're happy to show you any area that is not an active construction zone or piled up with packages. The last thing I'll say before we take questions is just reiterating the fact that middle school can be what families and what students make of it. It is a tough time. Everybody goes through some awkwardness and some transition. We push learners sometimes more than they're used to being pushed to learn, develop, to become independent. But that stuff is good. That's healthy. And we want to partner with parents. We want to partner with students to make sure that we can meet your learner where they're at and help them to succeed. Our grade 6 team this past year was able to bring in learners from 5th grade and maintain or grow their proficiency as measured on New Hampshire SAS for the first time in quite a while by pretty substantial margins. We're really proud of that team, and we're really excited for them continuing to serve your 6th graders coming into middle school. We have a lot of opportunities. We have a great staff. We want to make sure we partner with you and can support the success of your child. So with that being said, we'd like to open it up for questions. Oh, you get to speak into the silent microphone.
Is there a way I could join the Dungeons and Dragons club? That seems very fun. I'm very interested in that club. I call dibs on it.
That is a marvelous question. I appreciate you already calling dibs. That's a question for Miss Lindstad.
Yes, Dungeons and Dragons is very popular at JRMS, as it is with CHS. You did? So you could lead the show. And again, you're going to have to remind somebody to register you. But yes, it'll be 1 day a week, right after school, and it usually goes till 3:30. I do want to answer, if I can answer one question, because that always seems to be a question. There are no cuts for our sports. So at the middle school, just people have asked that before. I just want to make sure that, if you, again, it was up here about passion. If you have a passion or you want to try something and try a sport, that opportunity is there for you. And we have terrific coaches. And again, we will develop your skills. If that's what you want to do, there's an opportunity for you.
This past year, we had a very talented A team on all of our basketball and soccer programs, and a very large and enthusiastic B team that I know Miss Lindstad coached as well. We are committed to not having barriers to participation wherever we possibly can in the middle school as well. So if there's equipment challenges, there's things you're concerned about, you're not sure where to get started, you don't have this or that, we will do whatever we can to find those resources and make sure that your child can access clubs, activities, and sports in the middle school. In high school, obviously, once you get to the varsity level, absolutely there are cuts and differences, but that's part of why we want middle school to be accessible, to grow those skills in the middle school where that pressure isn't there yet. Yep, question? Yeah, I'll just pass it back.
All right, I got 2 questions. Is there going to be homework? That's my first question.
You want to ask both, so that we can just swap the mic back?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
So the first question is about homework, if they have homework. And then the other question is, I signed him up for soccer. Now, is that directly after school? Until what time and what days?
Thank you. So homework is a tricky question in that it's subject to each teacher's pacing and how they set up the learning in their classroom. We try to make sure that the learning can take place during the school day because having access to teachers is critical. And new math is not a joke. There's different ways of doing math nowadays than there was when I was in school. A lot of that has to do with trying to develop number sense, just as one example, in ways that aren't just learning to memorize what the numbers, are. In other words, we get it that parents have their own jobs. We get it that sometimes the way that we do things and the way that education has progressed is different from what parents' comfort level is. And we want learners to be able to continue to get that practice and feedback as often as possible from the teachers they're working with. So while I will not say we don't ever give homework, I will say that we try to avoid that as much as possible. What can lead to there being homework is if there are challenges with getting the work done during the class period that aren't just related maybe to needing some additional time. In other words, if there's some fooling around going on or things like that in the middle school, that's kind of what Mrs. Summy was talking about with some more ownership over behavior. Sometimes the teacher will say, I know you're capable of doing this. You're just going to have to finish it up at home. That might happen from time to time. Every 6th grader has an academic and social support period during the day called transitioning to middle school, which is another time that some of that extra work can be finished up. So what I will say is the majority of the time, the vast majority of the time, perhaps, I would not be expecting 6th graders to have homework, but it is possible. Second question is a Lindstad question.
Did you say you have a son or a daughter? Son. So JRMS soccer, and obviously schedules are based on the coach. Coach Beaton will be back this year coaching the boys. It's not right after school. It will be 5 o'clock at Humiston. The girls will go first, then they are right after school. So there is a difference, and it's usually based on that. Buses, usually though, games will always be played pretty much right after school. Girls will always play first. They'll play at 3:30 and the boys will follow at 4:45. That sometimes flip-flop when we go on trips. We'll try to make sure that everybody knows, and you can go to, I know but that's where it comes up. ConantAthletics.org. All of the schedules are already up. So if you want to see their home and away schedule right now, it is already up on ConantAthletics.org. Okay.
Thanks. I just have one question. How long are the class block periods?
It's an excellent question. The classes run about 43 minutes in length. The difference for that is the period that has lunch. I think there's an extra couple of minutes there because of the transition to and from lunch, but 43 minutes for each class period, including 43 minutes for that support period in the middle of the day. The school day starts at 7:25 a.m., which is a lot earlier than most sixth graders are used to. We ask that they not come into the building before 7:15. That's when the buses let off and things like that. And the school day for middle school ends at 2:14. So start earlier, but you have a lot more of the afternoon to do other things. Yes. Comes fast.
So would middle school
We have another question right over here.
would middle school band be able to play with high school band?
Yeah, that's a great question. All of our band classes, we have this year kind of a new setup with how we're doing our music teachers and music classes. We have one music teacher who focuses 6 through 12 on all of our ensembles. That means chorus, instrumental music, all of that. So both of the full bands will be taught by the same teacher. And that teacher last year was also doing some of that and scheduled concerts to be at the same time, did some crossover where the high schoolers worked with middle school students, taught them some of the musical pieces, and then they played together. I think it was the Avengers song last year that was a collaboration between middle and high school. It was kind of fun to watch them doing that. So having the one teacher does allow for a lot of that collaboration to happen. It's a really great question. And that helps our high school learners develop their skills by teaching while also having the middle schoolers having more of a larger band experience at the same time. So having the one teacher will encourage collaboration. And I know she is definitely committed to continuing to do, some of those crossovers and working together wherever she can. It was a wonderful question.
Thank you. What is the middle school standpoint on distractions in the classroom, such as cell phones?
That's a wonderful question. The middle school, and you can now tell this to the high school students because they're going to find out soon enough. Our philosophy is that cell phones really don't have much of a practical place most of the time in the classroom. They are not allowed at all in the middle school during the school day. So if you send your child in with one for after school purposes or things like that, we ask that it remain turned off and safely in their backpack during the day. They cause far more challenges in the middle school than any benefit. And we provide devices in the form of Chromebooks to every single student. They can take them home. They can use them for schoolwork. So there really is no benefit to having a cell phone available during the school day in the middle school in particular. It does cause a lot of challenges on the flip side. Social media issues crop up during the school day. They create sometimes tensions that are unnecessary. They distract with games and things like that. So we do not allow cell phones out in the middle school at all during the school day. So that's a good message to start right away in sixth grade. Understanding high school this year, one of our focus points and changing some of our culture is going to be pushing some of that cell phone usage again back down and out of the school a little bit because it does just create more problems than it's worth. So if you have older siblings, you can tell them, hey, you heard it first.
I know they have the Chromebooks, but is there anything else that they're going to require prior to school supplies, anything like that?
So in the past, we often, last maybe 4 years, we've purchased large amounts of binders, large amounts of folder dividers, things like that, just to basically provide those to everybody who needs them. Obviously, our budget's a little tighter this year, given the situation that the school district is in with running in a default budget and things like that. So we've asked our teachers to look differently at how they might use digital resources more and different types of supplies. We are still committed to not asking families to purchase supplies outside of what they're already paying for school operations through their taxes and things like that. So our teachers have done that by and large. We are going to be providing pencils, pens, paper supplies. Some teachers have asked for colored folders and things like that versus binders. So we are planning on providing, the vast majority of that. At this point, I'm not aware of any team that's planning on asking for additional supply purchases from families. If they do, it would be minimal and optional.
If like kids are more like being rude and stuff, do we get detention or suspended?
Yikes. Hopefully neither, but it is a good question. It's a fair question. I will start my answer to that question by saying last year was an incredibly challenging year for schools generally, and it was an incredibly challenging year for our school. And I just mean 6 through 12. We gave a presentation to the education committee and shared some information about the numbers of incidents that required intervention by administration. It was a lot more than we've seen probably ever. So there was more reacting last year than we typically would have liked to have seen, which means, unfortunately, more detentions and suspensions than we would have had in other years. Our goal is not to go down that road, not because we think people should get a free pass, but because in some ways giving a detention or a suspension is like a free pass. You do something that you shouldn't do. We say, come after school for an hour, and then you're back in class and nothing has really changed except that we've said your behavior is now excused because you served your time. Our goal is to provide learning opportunities and avenues for the learner to reflect and build skills when there's an issue in class. That doesn't mean we let somebody stay in class if there's going to be disruptive behaviors. It might mean that we pull that learner out and look at what's causing those behaviors with them and with their team and try to develop a plan that can help to support them getting back into the classroom successfully. Sometimes if a behavior is more extreme, is disruptive to the learning environment, is unsafe, is repetitive, that's when we might get down the road of suspensions in school or out of school to address some of those more serious or more recurring behaviors. So again, hopefully not, but it is all possible. Other questions?
Lockers. Are there lockers available to the 6th grade, or are they in their general class area?
Yes, the 6th grade wing has locker banks in the main portion where the 6th grade classes are, and there are additional ones both above and below the 6th grade that can be accessed by 6th graders. We don't require the use of lockers. There just aren't as many supplies and textbooks and things in backpacks as there were even 4 or 5 years ago, but we do make them available. And a lot of middle school students still like to hang coats and boots and things like that and have a safe place to do that. So we recommend that learners take a locker and use it, but it's not something that we require. You can have your backpack with you in the classroom, for example, if you'd like. Yes.
So what you're telling me is I can wear my backpack even when in school?
Yes, you can. What we ask is when you get into a classroom, the teacher will typically say a place that they'd like backpacks to be kept safely. It might be under the desk. It might be against a wall. We ask that obviously you do what the teacher's asking with that, but you can definitely keep them with you during the school day. Yeah, we think so. Any other questions? We will send out this, the live stream from tonight with this PowerPoint in it, as well as a handout that we created that's just other types of questions that we often get early in the school year for 6th grade families. So that will be another resource that will go to all of your email addresses. Again, sometimes just double check your spam filter because sometimes the emails that come from our web to school system get automatically shunted there because they're mass emails. So once you've marked them safe once, they usually go into your inbox and you're usually good. Question?
So is there going to be like a certain sign you have to do when you go to the bathroom? Like, in some schools, I know you have to do this.
It's a really good question. We don't have any specific sign for using the bathroom. Most teachers just ask that learners ask first or somehow let them know that they're going to be needing to use the restroom. And then we have a digital pass system that all the sixth graders will learn how to use early on. And they go in, they create a pass with the teacher's permission into a specific system that lets the teacher know they're out of the room and lets us know that they're out of the room. And then when they return to the room, they can sign back in and things like that. So sometimes teachers might say, if I'm in the middle of teaching, give me a sign, but most of the time they just ask that you raise your hand and ask. It's a great question.
So if you were to have an instrument, would you keep it at school or would you be able to take it home if you haven't bought an instrument? But also, does the school provide an instrument and would you be able to take it home to practice and stuff?
Another great question. We do have some instruments already on hand that we can loan out. And again, we're committed to finding others. If there's sometimes people come in and they play a very specific type of instrument that we don't often have. So in some cases, we have to look for renting one from someplace or things like that. So we do have a stockpile already of ones that we can loan out and others we can usually get our hands on. In terms of storing them, the music room for the ensemble instruction is the one right down here off of the main lobby. And it was flooded maybe 6 or 7 years ago. So that was the bad news. But the good news is that meant it got to be completely redone. And so there's beautiful new storage lockers in there, which the teacher signs out and things like that. So you can keep your instrument here safely locked up, or you can take it home at times when you need to practice. The best person for that sort of, interaction and planning would be Miss Swift, who's that instrumental music teacher. Great question. Thank you to the learners tonight. There's been a lot of really great learner questions. Fantastic. I think we have a very high inquiry level in our incoming sixth grade group. Sure. Thank you.
What's your protocol or process when it comes to behaviors, say bullying or whatever? Like, what do you try to handle in the school before you reach out to the parent? Like, what's the timeline of, I think it's time to reach out, or do you reach out right away? I know in the past, I've had older children that have been through the school system here. And I reached out to the teachers like right at the beginning of the school year. Please email me anytime there's an issue. I don't want it to wait a week, a 2-week, time process before the teacher says, this happened like a couple weeks ago. So.
That's a really good question. Something that honestly we have been continuing on a journey of doing better with is how to handle and report those situations. The line between peer conflict that we want to be able to address and resolve quickly versus something that's persistent, disruptive to the learning environment, unsafe, that's a line that oftentimes takes a little bit of time for us to identify and define. One of the things that we're working on this year is a digital reporting system for any incidents or reports of negative interactions with peers, potential bullying or harassing types of behaviors, which will allow that to get to me and other administrators and school counselors much quicker. In the past, we relied on paper reporting forms, and I don't know if you've seen your children's handwriting recently, but trying to decode that and figure out what it means takes time and things like that. So anyway, that's one avenue that we're trying to use to speed that process up, is giving everybody a universal reporting link with a form that routes immediately to administration so we can quickly identify what to do with it, who to contact, things like that. The second thing that we're hoping will improve this and expecting will improve this is the expansion of our school counseling team, which now includes a school transition counselor. Her name is Mrs. Durest. She'll be doing a lot of peer support work, quickly identifying and working with issues and communicating with parents. And then having that dedicated 6th and 7th grade counselor, we think will also help with a lot of those communication pieces to more quickly identify patterns of behavior and let parents know right away. It is our expectation that our teachers and our administrators and our support staff are communicating with parents when they notice any sort of issue of concern. And so if that doesn't happen, obviously we need to follow up, address, and support how we can improve that communication system. I know our 6th grade team does a really great job. They send out almost too much communication sometimes.
I would say that emailing your child's mentor, we also call homeroom, they might say that, and web to school, or is it say advisor or homeroom? Yeah, that's honestly the quickest way is because we have learner support meetings every week where we talk about sixth graders in terms of how to help them, anything we can do to support them. And so emailing your child's advisor right away, if you hear anything, also gets information to us really quickly.
If there is a concern that there may be bullying taking place in particular, there are state laws and district policies that guide bullying. It's a very serious situation when that's potentially happening. It's a very serious allegation, and it's something we have to look into pretty much right away when we have reason to believe it's taking place. What is difficult about bullying situations or harassment situations is that investigation includes due process protections for both the alleged perpetrator as well as the alleged victim. And what that means is, while we'll immediately do things to separate the two or provide safety, we can't take disciplinary action against an individual in a situation like that until an investigation has happened and concluded. And only then, if the investigation has collected evidence that shows that has taken place. That doesn't mean that if an investigation doesn't show it was bullying, that there wasn't some negative behaviors that need to be addressed and learning that needs to be assigned. But sometimes the evidence doesn't rise to the level of being a bullying situation or something like that. So I just want to caution that in middle school, as some of those peer conflicts start to spring up more and some of those interactions start to happen that aren't great, we do see a spike in reports of bullying that doesn't always translate into evidence of bullying on the other end. And that's why, again, we try to be proactive and focus more on the learning side early to prevent some of that. Are there any other questions about JRMS, sixth grade?
So at what point would a child be marked tardy? At what? If the door's open.
So the doors open at 7:15. The final sort of bell, which is immediately followed by the pledge, is at 7:25. So if somebody enters the building after 7:25, that would be marked tardy for the school day. So if it looks likely that that's going to happen, sometimes people wake up and their car's having issues. A sibling, a 2-year-old, I have a 2-year-old, had a complete meltdown, and I've know what that's like and the time it takes to get that back settled. Those things happen and we get that. We just ask that you let our office know right away so that they can then anticipate that your child will be tardy. And many times we can excuse reasons like that are unforeseen emergencies and things like that. Any other questions? Excellent.
So, if you miss a couple school days, how would the catching up work?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Sometimes if you know you're going to miss a couple of school days, because we do so much online now in terms of providing material and assignments through Otis, you can oftentimes access that stuff even while you're absent. This is particularly true if somebody's on a family vacation. Sometimes they'll get let us know ahead of time, get the work squared away, and then they're able to work on it at nights or something when they're on their vacation. If it's a sickness thing and you just don't feel well enough to even think about doing schoolwork, totally okay. But you will have to come back and make a plan with each of your teachers, because in sixth grade, the responsibility for the learning starts to move more and more to the learner. So that could mean saying to your teacher, I was out for 2 days. Can I come in during my support period 5, and work with you to get some of this caught up? That could be working between your parents and your teachers and saying that we're going to come after school for a few days and work with a different teacher each day to get some of the work made up. It could just be that you're so good at working on your own that you just want to get the work when you get into school. And then between you and your teacher, you say, yep, just make sure it's done by this date, and I'm here if you need help. So it really is about having a conversation in that case between you and your teachers, and including your parent or guardian in that as well. Really good question. Yes.
Is there breakfast at the middle school?
Yes, great question. There is breakfast at the middle school. Unfortunately, this year we are back to a needing to pay for breakfast and lunch type of scenario. So last year and the year before, our breakfast went through the roof because we basically told everybody coming in, if you haven't had breakfast, go eat it, because eating breakfast is really important to focusing in school. This year, we are back to having to use the money in your account to pay for breakfast as well as for lunch. So that is a pretty big change for this year. We offer it a little bit past the start of school. Sometimes, you know, if a learner's running close and it's 7:22 or something and they don't want to be late, we would rather them go to their first period, say to their teacher, can I go and get breakfast? And then the teacher can mark that down and send them down. So it's usually open a few minutes past the start of school.
Will we still be using the pickup patrol for all that?
Yes, pickup patrol is still used in the middle school and the high school for dismissal, absenteeism, tardies, anything like that. Yep. So if you have not used pickup patrol is a parent portal. You can notify the school, you know, you just go into the app on your phone or go on the computer and notify the school, my child's going to be absent today. Here's the reason why. I'll need to pick my child up at this time for this purpose. My child needs to take a different form of transportation home. Usually they take bus 28, but today they're going to take 41. It basically allows you to communicate any changes to your child's attendance or dismissal from school or pickup options right through an app online or through a phone. And it cuts out the need to call the school or the need to email the school because, again, that's done for all of your children through that one portal. Absolutely. Yep. Yep. In 6th grade, you can walk to school, walk home from school. You would just obviously select that at the beginning of the year as what your child's arrival and dismissal would be. Yep. Absolutely fine. Any other questions tonight? Okay. All of our contact information is available online. It's in the letter I sent home with your learner's schedule. I will get this out, the frequently asked questions sheet. If anything else comes up, please reach out to any of the school administrators, your 6th grade team, which again is wonderful. School counseling, any of us are happy to help. Thank you again for coming in person, this large group tonight. Apologies again for the lack of space. And thank you for the wonderful questions. Have a great night.